Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. The Trump administration today signaled that it does plan to move forward with Trump's immigration agenda, which he has outlined, with a focus on first removing criminal illegal aliens from the country. And apparently a wall, that much promised wall, is on the way. During today's White House news conference, Press Secretary Sean Spicer had this to say.
I think the president has noted that this was a serious priority of his throughout the campaign. He has already started to work with Congress on the appropriations avenue of that. And so he is doing everything he can to direct agencies and Congress to commence with that work as soon as possible.
We're joined now from San Diego by Enrique Moronias. He's founder of the pro-immigrant group Border Angels and a fierce critic of Trump's immigration plan. Enrique, thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
Sure. Glad to be here.
So I've read a lot about your views on this, and they're pretty conventional on the left. You think that his immigration plans are wrong and mean and immoral, and you've described him as a racist. What's interesting, though, about you is that you are not just a citizen of the U.S., but a citizen of Mexico. In fact, you describe yourself in your bio as a proud American, but I'm quoting now, but an even prouder Mexican. So I think it's fair to ask you this question. If you think that Trump's border security plans are immoral, what do you make of Mexico's border laws, which are much tougher than anything President Trump has suggested?
Well, I'm in the majority of people's opinions about Donald Trump, and I think it is very inhumane, to build a wall. The wall that exists right now between the United States and Mexico covers a third of the border and has led to more than 11,000 deaths. As you know, there's no wall with Mexico and Guatemala. They do have strict laws, just like the United States has strict laws. They don't have a deportation police like Donald Trump wants to have. They don't have people rounding up and raiding people and not allowing people to come in because of their religion or the country they come from, like Trump wants to do. So what Donald Trump has said, stated, and lived by are very racist, very xenophobic lifestyle and his messages. And it's a very, very sad state of affairs. And I travel quite a bit. And it's really an embarrassment to the whole world to have Donald Trump.
Well, you must not travel much to Mexico because they do have a deportation force. Okay, well then you should pay closer attention to what they're doing on the southern border. They not only patrol the border, but really, okay. Well, what percentage do you think of clemency requests they grant? Someone comes into Mexico from Guatemala or Salvador or Honduras and says, I need amnesty, I would like to stay. In the U.S., we grant about 50% of those. How many do you think Mexico grants?
The U.S. grants about 4%. The U.S. grants about 4%.
No, that's actually Mexico, 49. That's 49. It's 49%. Just for your information. Well, no, that's true.
Tucker, just for a second, I just realized there's Fox and there's facts. For a moment there, I forgot I was on Fox. But as far as Mexico is concerned, you can go down this. You can. No, I know it. This is what I do every day. When you go to Mexico, the reason you have a lot of asylum seekers going through Mexico is because you get a 21-day pass. They go from southern Mexico to northern Mexico. They apply for asylum on the Tijuana border or the Mexicali border, northern cities of Mexico. Most are turned away by the United States. They're allowed to come in. They don't have a family relative, and then they're deported. And this is something that a lot of people don't realize.
Okay, so let's get fact-based. Okay. So in Mexico, illegal immigration is a felony in Mexico, punishable by up to 2 years in prison. Repeated attempts can get you 10 years in prison. People who aid illegal aliens in Mexico are also subject to felony charges. None of that is true in the United States. Mexican law says that Mexico can deport illegal aliens, quote, who are detrimental to economic or national interests, who violate Mexican law, or, and I'm quoting now, who are not physically or mentally healthy or lack the means to sustain themselves. Are those humane laws? Are those racist laws?
U.S. has laws like that, and they're not illegal aliens. They're undocumented people.
Actually,
and there's 250 million undocumented people in the world. The
federal
U.S. only has 11
law
million.
Describes them as, hold on, just since you're so knowledgeable, our federal documents, the IRS, for example, describes people who are in this country illegally as illegal aliens. So it's not some racist term I'm throwing around. It's a term that the Obama administration used for 8 years. So let's just stop.
But the thing is, before they were called wetbacks, people were called three-fifths of a human being.
I'm using,
and they changed the terminology.
First of all, they were never called
words
three-fifths of a human being
matter.
by anybody. I don't know where you're conflating two things. But you're not answering my question, which is, in Mexico, it is a felony to go into Mexico illegally. And look, I'm not here to beat up on Mexico. I'm really saying, as someone who says that he's more proud to be Mexican than American and is holding the U.S. to this standard, why don't you answer the question? Do you agree with the fact it's a felony to go into Mexico illegally?
No. And the thing is that I never said I'm more proud to be Mexican than the United States of America. I'm a dual national.
It says right here, I'm reading your bio. Your bio, which I read about 4 minutes ago, said, quote, I'm a proud American and an even
I'm very proud
prouder
to be
Mexican.
American and to be Mexican.
Even
and it doesn't
prouder
say
to be Mexican
Well, I
than
don't know which
American.
bio
You say
you're
that
reading,
in
but
the
I'm very
bio
proud of my
off
Mexican
your Border
heritage.
Angels
Very
site, which
proud.
I just read.
Yeah.
Okay, but so my question
Very
is,
proud.
if you're even prouder to be Mexican than you are to be American, then clearly your main interest is in preserving the well-being of that country, because you just said, I'm prouder to be Mexican than to be American. So that's fine.
I didn't say that, but the thing is that
it says it
both
right on your
countries
bio.
are great.
I don't want to debate something that's true.
I think I know the way I feel and what I say. I know. I don't know what you say. You know.
Okay. Well,
and I'm telling you, I love both
to...
countries. I love both countries.
Whatever. Okay.
If more people have the dual nationality, like a lot of countries have, then you could be treating people with dignity and respect, building bridges, not walls. 11,000 deaths
nobody
of
is
migrants
against,
because of the wall.
Nobody is against treating people with dignity, and I'm not.
Well,
here
Donald
to,
Trump apparently
to
is. Look at the way he's talked about women, his assaults on women,
I'm asking you
his attacks
serious,
on Muslims.
I'm asking you adult questions.
I'm telling you facts.
And
I'm telling you facts.
Okay, then answer this question. What is morally the problem with a country controlling who comes across its borders? It seems to me that's a prerequisite for being a country. You're not a country unless you have control of your borders. So why exactly is a wall immoral? You may say it's hard to build a wall, impossible to build a wall. That's fine. But as a theoretical matter, why is it wrong to control who comes into your country?
Because a lot of the people that are coming into the country, and as you know, Mexican undocumented migration has dropped 40%. Mexicans are no longer the largest group.
No,
Central
they're
Americans,
Central
but it does have to do.
I'm aware of that.
Because the U.S. policy is what drives a lot of these people out. The intervention in Central America, the demand by the drugs by the American public, the intervention in the Middle East by President Bush, those things cause people to leave. There's a consequence to those actions.
So you're saying,
so you can't just you can't if you're going to get involved in other people's policies, you've got to pay the price.
Okay, so you're saying,
and that price might be that they drive people out.
So because the American government, and I think it's important because you're representing a lot of people when you say this, a lot of people have your views, but they never fully articulate them, and you now are articulating them, and I think it's helpful to know what you think. You're saying because the U.S. government has behaved in the immoral ways you just listed, and because its citizens take drugs, that it has no right to control its borders? Is that what you're saying? That appears to be what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that has a great deal to do why people are leaving these countries. The countries are leaving, whether it's Mexico or else, they should do more to keep the people there as well. But right now, you invited me to talk about Trump's policies, his immoral policies.
And they are predicated on the idea, a very simple idea. We can debate about how you get there, but the idea is really clear. You have a right as a country to control who comes into your country. And you're saying, no, you don't, because America is immoral and because it's people. Then does a country have a right to control who comes in or out? Mexico apparently does. Does America? And you see, does it?
Yeah, the United States of America does as well. But you should do it in a humane manner. There's no line for these people that come into the country. So when they say, oh, they should get a line, there is no line. They don't qualify for a visa.
I'm sorry, for someone who works on this for a
died.
living, you don't seem to have thought this through very much, I have to say.
I've thought it through very much. Every single day I think it through. I'm at the border almost every day. I spend half my time in Mexico. I'm very familiar with the issue.
You don't seem to have learned much. So would it be okay for the U.S. government to have an absolute barrier along the border and the U.S. government to determine who comes into this country from a foreign country? That's an okay thing for you. You think that's all right?
Only if the U.S. were to stay out of other countries' business, which it doesn't. It consumes more drugs than any other country. It gets involved in policies of other countries and civil wars.
I hope people are listening to you because I think you speak for many.
Oh, yeah, the majority of the people actually, 67% of the U.S. public supports humane immigration policies.
I doubt they agree with what you just said.
Right now.
All right. Enrique, thanks a lot
look at the Pew Institute. Look at the facts. There's facts.
Thanks for telling us what you think. It was really interesting. Thanks.
Yeah, the majority thinks that.